Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our session. We're going to start with the pledge and then move on to the meeting. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Acting Clerk Kahan will call the roll. Trustee Fritchie.
Present.
Trustee Lopez.
Present.
Trustee White.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Quezada.
Present.
And Mayor Levin.
Present.
Thank you. We have tonight 3 resolutions. Is there anyone in the public who wishes to address the board on any of the resolutions on tonight's agenda?
Not seeing anybody.
Okay, so we'll go to Resolution A, authorizing the village manager to sign an intermunicipal agreement with the County of Westchester to provide capacity improvements to the Village of Ossining Youth Bureau. Resolved that upon review by the Corporation Council, the village manager is authorized to sign an intermunicipal agreement with the County of Westchester for capacity improvements to the village's youth bureau. And be it further resolved that pursuant to the intermunicipal agreement, the Village of Ossining shall conduct a needs assessment for the Youth Bureau and purchase physical activity, supplies, and equipment as detailed in Exhibit A annexed thereto. And be it further resolved that pursuant to the intermunicipal agreement, the County of Westchester shall reimburse the Village of Ossining an amount not to exceed $71,428 in accordance with the schedule annexed hereto as Exhibit B. Do I have a motion?
So move. Second.
Any comments on the Youth Bureau? Except that I think it's moving along beautifully, and I appreciate all the work being done. Let's go for a vote.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Resolution B, authorizing settlement with village employee. Resolved, upon review by the Corporation Council, the mayor is authorized to sign a settlement agreement with village employee 0179, last 4 digits of social security number. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second. Any comments?
I'm confused. What's the settlement about?
It's a matter that we have dealt with in executive session.
Okay, maybe I'm drawing a blank then. My mistake. Carry on.
Can I call the vote, Mayor?
Yep,
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed?
go ahead.
Thank you. Resolution C, authorizing settlement, American Concrete Pumping. Whereas American Concrete Pumping, Inc. commenced a lawsuit in Supreme Court, Westchester County, captioned American Concrete Pumping, Inc. versus Armando Homem, Aldina Homem, Hudson EFT LLC, Matthew Noviello PE, and Village of Ossining under index number 566858/2019 for property damage arising from the collapse of a retaining wall at 60 Main Street. And whereas multiple third-party actions naming additional parties were commenced relating to the incident, and whereas the parties to the action through counsel, with the invaluable assistance of mediator Richard P. Byrne, were able to resolve the litigation for the global settlement amount of $995,000, of which the Village of Ossining would contribute $15,000. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining authorizes settlement of the litigation commenced by American Concrete Pumping for the global amount of $995,000, with the Village of Ossining's contribution to be $15,000, and be it further resolved that the treasurer of the Village of Ossining is hereby authorized and directed to pay to American Concrete Pumping, Inc. and Scott Stone PC $15,000 in settlement of the aforementioned litigation upon delivery to the Village of Ossining of a release to the village for settlement of the litigation. Do I have a motion?
So move. Second.
Any comments? Stuart, just for the public record, this doesn't talk about that we're taking any responsibility, but rather that it is a settlement to move this along, correct?
That is correct, Mayor.
Okay,
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed?
Aye.
Uh, There are no other resolutions on tonight's agenda. Can I have a motion to adjourn the special meeting and to go into work session?
So moved.
Second.
All those in
Any
favor?
comments? Nope,
Aye.
thank you, Stuart. Aye.
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 We are now in work session. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Thank you. So it's a work session. I don't think there are any announcements, not that we have to have any, but I
I
didn't hear
have one,
anything
though.
before. Are there any announcements that we need to let the public know about?
Yeah, next Friday, because we are not meeting next Wednesday, correct?
Now, next week
No.
we do meet. Next, August 3rd, we meet. So next Friday would be August 5th.
Okay, well, August 5th will be the Austin Fire Department Parade, starting at 7 o'clock, and I'll announce it next week too. So, I'm done.
Can
I
I
actually
meet,
I didn't actually hear it. Bob, I couldn't hear you clearly. I'm sorry. Next week is what?
Next Friday the 5th is the Fire Department Parade in Austin,
Oh,
starting at
got
7
it. Thank
o'clock,
you.
coming down Croton Avenue and down the riverfront.
Got it. Thank you.
I did want to mention that tomorrow night is the ribbon cutting for the Free Little Library at the kiosk at Henry Gordon Park that was donated from the Library Association. Thanks.
4 p.m. All are welcome.
Oh, sorry if I said that.
Thank you.
Hey, so on our agenda tonight,
Okay.
we have
Next item.
okay. So we have Tom Cerese of New York State Turf and Landscapers Association to discuss their position on gas-powered leaf blowers. And I hope I pronounced your name correctly. So you're on mute. You're on mute. Mr. Cerese, you're on mute. Yes.
Okay, is the sound okay? Because I'm having trouble hearing everybody.
The sound, we do seem to be having a little problem with the audio. We're not really sure why.
Okay,
We can hear you fine. Yes, we can
Okay,
hear
great.
you without any problem.
well, you know, I am a board officer for the Turf Association in New York State, and I've been traveling many municipalities in support of the industry, and I've also known Ossining Mower, the DeSisto brothers and family, for quite some time as well. I was hoping that Vinny would have an opportunity to join us this evening, but he's easily accessible in the future to keep us informed about the availability of the lithium-powered equipment. And it's not all that easy to come by initially. What I have been hoping for countywide is to have an apprenticeship program for the green industry. We have grounds care professionals, folks that cut our grass and take care of our shrubs, and we have pesticide applicators, and we have folks in the tree industry. And there's been a lot of pressure to convert to electric tools. They're extremely expensive. However, I do agree with a lot of the folks that I've crossed paths with over the months and years that complain about the noise of a Bush gas-powered leaf blower. I would support quiet summers. I would like to see data gathered for the purpose of a consensus. Have you had any public hearings? Have you had an outcry from residents about the noise with the leaf blowers, because a lot of folks have been working at home. This seems to be the topic that I'm coming across most often. And if you have any direct questions, please just stop me and I'll do the best I can to assist you with it.
Can we back up and just contextualize why you're here? We have a law that, Stuart, was it passed in 2019? That stipulated, among other things, when gas-powered leaf blowers could and could not be used, right?
Yes, actually 2017, Trustee White, effective in 2018.
Okay. And Mr. Sirachi, you were here because you feel that having to use electric tools, especially leaf blowers, is kind of an onerous task for landscapers for a variety of reasons, and it's difficult to make that transition. Is that right?
Well, I think when we say landscaper, we're addressing the green industry, specifically with the grounds care technician. There has not been a replacement tool that's more efficient than a liquid fuel power leaf blower. Measuring them in decibels and specifically with a backpack leaf blower, they're very similar. The difference is primarily the cost, the battery runtime, and the ability to be able to charge the battery. Zero emissions are important, but my question is, what about the land and the water? I think we could do a lot better with educating grounds care people, be aware of the estuaries, and perhaps even get involved with coring lawns and then mulching. I'd like to undertake an education program to be adopted before a complete ban of leaf blowers. It
Can I
seems
ask,
to be.
I'm sorry to interrupt. My understanding was, and village manager, the attorney is going to correct me, that you're here to do a presentation on behalf of an organization. Are you aware of the law that we actually have in Austining? And are you aware of the 2 years that it took to produce that law?
I could barely hear you at all.
Okay.
I've got my volume on full. And I can
Well, I'm not sure.
barely hear you.
Did anybody else hear me?
I heard you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Maybe somebody else spoke, but I'm interested to know if, number one, you read our legislation. Number two, are you aware that we spent 2 years in public meetings and interview, including Vinny from Austining, that we put in all sorts of measurements in place? So my understanding is that you're here to present to us based on an organization that you are actually representing, and to enlighten us as to other uses. I'm not seeing a presentation. I'm not hearing that part. I just don't know if have you read actually our legislation in Austining, in the village?
I have not. I have not.
Okay,
This,
so that's a little bit of an issue. I mean, we're happy to hear ideas that you have, but sir, to be perfectly honest, we spent 2 years on this. It's all been on public hearings. We record everything. And I thought that you were coming here, and the reason we welcome you here as a part of a presentation and a work session is the assumption that homework was done, and that based on the legislation that we have, that you and your organization would then enlighten us as to more that we can do. But if you didn't read the legislation, maybe Stuart, you could read it. And your question about public hearings, all legislation has to pass through public hearings. We spent, I don't know if it was a full 2 years because it's always on and off. We don't discuss one piece of legislation, but it was all thoroughly vetted. And we gave Stuart, was it 3 years of a time frame so people can switch over from their gas powered to electric? Because it didn't go into effect right away. We were asked to give like a nice big hefty window. And our legislation, if you had read it, says that it's half an acre or less. So lots of public spaces and large properties. The issue for us, sir, is that where there are small homes and the properties are right on top of one another, the noise and the health factors became an issue. And to be perfectly frank, the request for the change came from the public, not from the legislators, not from us. It actually came to us because people living in those environments had asked that we do something about it. So I just want to frame the conversation. Now, having said all that, I don't know if you're actually hearing me on your computer, but my colleagues on the call are hearing me fine. So I'm not quite sure what to do with this. I don't know if it's just my computer or somebody else can go through this, because it's really
The-
important
the
for us to
audio-
understand why you're here in front of us today.
The audio in its entirety is, I'm really straining to hear it, and I am at a disadvantage in not having reviewed the legislation. So I don't know what light I could shed on, what.
Right,
what
so
you're-
if you're representing an organization, might I suggest that you read our legislation, you speak with our attorney, Stuart Kahan, the gentleman that you see in the gallery, you ask the questions you need to, and then come back to us during a work session representing your organization, because that's my understanding, with a plan of what it is you want us to do. The legislation was passed, so, and it went through a public hearing. So maybe if you have those conversations first, and then come back to us with either ideas that you would like to share with us. I heard about educating people about mulch. I couldn't be more excited to have apprenticeship and teach people more about mulching. That sounds fantastic, but I think it has to be, first you have to understand what Austining passed, because every municipality has slightly different pieces of legislation. Once you see all that and you speak to our attorney, maybe you can come back and then sort of add to that or ask, for whatever it is that you believe should be done. To be clear, turning over a piece
Thank
of
you.
legislation
Again,
that
I
we already
am
did is difficult.
straining. I am straining to hear.
Okay, so
much
now
of
I
what
don't
you're
know what to
discussing.
do about that. Maddie, any chance we could put it into the chat, or maybe somebody else can try? Stuart, why don't
So
you
I
try
can-
putting some of this?
I think it's going to be difficult to go through the entire legislation in the chat. It's not a concise.
No,
don't
I
have a
wasn't
chat.
saying that.
Oh.
All I asked was that what I was saying, maybe somebody else can say it, maybe it's my.
Oh, so can,
No, yeah.
yeah,
If I could just
Sure.
chime in for a second. Two things. Number one, so it seems like you have dialed in. Is that right? You dialed in on your telephone?
I just touched the Zoom and it connected me with the meeting.
Okay, so if you
Connection.
click on your phone, I think the audio is coming out of your earpiece as if you have it here, but there should be an option to have it be coming out of the speakerphone. So if you click on the screen, you can check if the audio option to make a speakerphone is there. So that's one thing you can do to try to address this. And number
Omar,
two-
Omar, oh yeah, sorry, I thought for some reason he dropped off the call. Sorry, Omar.
No, he's there.
I think he's very still. And number two is this came to us in the form of a letter. I think everything that the mayor is saying is correct. I was under the impression that the points of the letter were going to be expanded upon tonight. That turned out not to be the case. My suggestion would be to take this conversation offline until you can come to a conclusion about what recommendations you have for Austining, and then we can return to the conversation.
I agree. I am at a disadvantage without having reviewed the legislation that you have implemented in place. In closing, and I'm going to break off in a moment, I have designed a template that other municipalities have been very excited about, and we've been able to add and subtract things that are specific to certain areas of Westchester County. And I'd like the opportunity in the future to share with you.
Okay, can you hear me at all? Not yet, right? Okay.
Just barely.
Omar, maybe you could do this for me. He seems to be able to hear you better than me. When he first he has to go through his homework, talk to Stuart, and then come to a meeting.
Great. So the next conversation will be with Corporation Counsel Stuart Kahan, and then we can talk over email about the best path forward.
Okay. Thank you, sir. And I think you have sort of the next steps. Okay, Jamie? Or I'm sorry, Stuart, are you managing the meeting? Oh, no, Jamie,
No.
sorry.
It's me.
Actually-
Sorry.
Manager.
It's me. Next, we have Corporation Counsel will review some tax certioraries that he had provided with you, the board with earlier this week. Thank you.
Thank you, folks. Just briefly, we have 4 matters that have been resolved through tax certiorari process. 9 Walden Road, and that would be a repayment of $5,697.57. 40 South Highland, which would be $16,848.68. 56 South Highland, which would be $7,671.77. Those two are actually joined together because it's the same owner. And 103 Croton, which would be $8,492.31. The intention is to have resolutions before the board next week to approve the settlements and effectuate the repayment of the overpaid taxes from the settlements. All cover the tax years of 2016 through 2021.
Thank you, Stuart. I think
Sorry. I
just the
interrupted you
resolution
guys.
for next week, sure.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's our last agenda item, correct?
That is correct.
It is. Can I have a motion to adjourn to executive session for a matter of personnel, please?
So move.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank
Aye.
you.
Good night.
Good night.